Hey everybody, it's Jim. It's Amadeus. It's Monday, and Amadeus. Hope you had a nice weekend. It was a crazy weekend. A lot of kinds of good stuff going on, and from college basketball, we got some good spring training baseball. We had some outstanding stuff going on in the hot stove league in NFL football. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, it was a great weekend with some great games to watch. Obviously, big shout out to our boys at South
Right.
Florida. Just again, they were a dog on the road in Charlotte. They show up big. That was the game that I kept saying was the one that worried me the
Yeah.
most on their schedule. And boy, did they went out there and proved me wrong. They said, we can just we'll just blow them out by 15 points.
We got your
And
back, Uncle Amadeus. Yes.
yeah, and it's gotten to the point now where you can really see the improvement in this team. Like at
Yeah.
first, when they started this streak, they were the cardiac kids pulling
Right.
off these huge comebacks after awful
Hmm.
starts to the game. Now they're just rolling teams from start
Hmm.
to finish, not even going down at all in the game. They take the lead and they never look back, and it really goes to show you the way they started the season with losing four of their
Hmm.
first six games, and the way they've evolved throughout the season under their
Right.
new head coach. Just big shout out to that program. They are the gift that keeps on giving.
Sure.
You keep giving me them as a dog, and they just keep winning games outright.
Well, I also you brought it up, and you texted me over the weekend. On Saturday, they moved from a 3-point underdog, a 3.5-point underdog, to I think it was almost 5 at game time.
Yeah. So they actually opened at a 2.5 the night before, and
Okay.
by the time I woke up, it was 3.5, and then before we even got to noon, it was 4.5, close to
Right.
5. So yeah, and a lot of money was coming in on Charlotte and South
A lot of
Florida.
money was lost.
They just keep proving everybody wrong. They are the best team in this conference by far. And you know what? A big congratulations to them, because
Mhm.
not only did they, win the regular season
Mhm.
AAC title, which if you've grabbed them at plus 200, when I said to 2 weeks ago, yeah,
Right.
you would have cashed that, the regular season conference winners. And big congratulations to them, because as of this weekend, you can finally bet on them to make the Final Four at
Mhm.
plus 6,600. And
Whoa.
yeah, so I'm giving that out. I'm already on them at plus 6,600 to make the Final
Jeez.
Four. And you know, don't get too complacent though, because just know USC has better odds than you to make the Final Four right now. You can get USC at plus 5,000, a team that would pretty much need to win the Pac-12 tournament to make it into the NCAA tournament. They have no other avenue, but they have better odds to make the Final Four than South Florida. I just found that very interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it could happen to FAU last year, it could happen to USF this year. So you never know. You never know. Um, we both had a fun opportunity to watch Miami and Orlando play some soccer this this Saturday, and boy, I'll tell you, uh, one team came to play, the other one I'm not sure what they wanted to do, but it was funny too because Orlando was talking smack all week about, okay, we lost that first meeting that was last year, but we're coming to Fort Lauderdale and we're gonna make a statement. Well, they did. They came to Fort Lauderdale. They made a statement. Statement is we're not as good as Miami. So that was the statement. Oof.
Yeah, they, we talked about that addition of
Right.
Luis Suarez. I kept saying how he had a good season for
Yeah.
Gremio last year.
Yeah.
He may be like Messi, where he's past his prime, but that doesn't
Hmm.
mean he still doesn't have some flashes of brilliance left in him. And sure enough, the two goals he scored were
Hmm.
fantastic to score on that angle. And who was the guy that set him up? A guy I've been talking up quite a bit
Hmm.
on this show about, Julian Gressel, how he was going to be a
Right.
key piece in that midfield this year. And boy, was he everywhere on that field,
Hmm.
setting up Messi, Suarez, you name it. The only thing he
Right.
could do was score a goal himself when he hit the
Right.
crossbar on that
Right.
beautiful through ball by I believe
Right.
it was Suarez. But yeah, poor kid. It just wasn't his night. Hits the crossbar, but man, he was setting everybody else up on the team for brilliance.
Well, they've got some young, fast players on that team, and they just I mean, Messi and Suarez and those guys, they don't have to run a lot because they'll get you the ball.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is, and that's the thing is you get these into these situations now where the addition of Suarez has
Mhm.
really become a problem for defenses because now you got Messi dragging two defenders away, you got Suarez dragging two defenders away, and
Mhm.
as you just mentioned, now you're leaving all this empty space for these
Mhm.
young, fast kids to really make a move. And
Mhm.
all it takes is one move in that open space where you draw
Mhm.
another defender off of one of your guys, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
they're in open space, kind of like how we saw that
Right.
that first Suarez goal, where it was just a little flick over the head there,
Mhm.
and Suarez was completely in the open. So absolutely, this team is the best team in the MLS this year. I mean, we've talked a lot about it coming into the
Right.
season.
Well, they had Jalen Waddle on on Miami radio, and he was at the game, and he was saying that some of those guys out there playing midfield for Inter Miami were as fast as some of the wide receivers he's played against in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. They got a lot of speed on that team,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all about utilizing the spaces, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what Miami does, and that's what happens, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
have when you have a young team, it's hard to take advantage of that. But when you surround them with all these veteran players that have won so many things in more, uh, a lot more stronger leagues over in
Mm-hmm.
Europe and whatnot, when
Right.
you bring them here, yeah, they're gonna bring that knowledge, that experience, and it
Mm-hmm.
really helps these young players out. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing with Miami, because it's
Right.
really it's all the young players making the plays for the experienced veterans who are
Setting
getting
them up. Yep.
yeah in the positions to find the net, which is the thing. We've seen many times, teams can have a great
Mm-hmm.
a lot of possession, a great attack, but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's getting into the box, that final third area where people struggle to score goals. And when
Mm-hmm.
you have a guy like Messi and Suarez on your team,
Mm-hmm.
that's tough to defend when everybody else is doing their role too.
Absolutely. We uh, talked about those guys. We talked about uh, some stuff that on the NFL side, uh, on the to-do list for Jason Light at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was to get Mike Evans back on the team, to hire an offensive coordinator that Baker Mayfield likes, Liam Cohen, and then to get Baker Mayfield. So right now, he's got 2 out of 3 before getting ready for the draft. He got Mike Evans signed today. He got Liam Cohen, who is somebody who Baker likes because of the time they spent together in Los Angeles. And now the aforementioned Baker Mayfield is the guy they got to nail down.
Yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster weekend, because you
Mm-hmm.
started out with some positives that looked like they were going to get the deal done with Mike
Mm-hmm.
Evans, and then I think sometime on Friday, Mike Evans came out and said, I want to get a deal done with the Bucks, but I want to test free agency too
Mm-hmm.
and see, maybe what's the highest offer I can get out there if I test the free agency market. And then over the weekend, he started talking about all this stuff where, I don't want to play with a rookie quarterback. I want to play
Right.
with an experienced veteran on a Super Bowl contending team.
Mm-hmm.
Winning a championship is important to me. And it really started to seem like he already had one foot out the door. And then here we are, Monday morning, and he's signed an extension, 2 years with the Bucks, and I believe it's
It's 52
35.
million. 52
Yeah, yeah.
million. So it's 26 million a year. There's incentive clauses in the deal that could get him over 30 million per year, depending upon what he does. So Baker Mayfield's safety blanket is signed, sealed, and coming back. And they got, like I said, they got Liam Cohen, who was not the OC, but he was a quarterback coach, and he's the guy that Baker liked in Los Angeles. So we'll see. I think that you know the lines are kind of falling in place for Baker to come back. I don't see any reason. I mean, I don't see where he could go. Um, Frankly, that would be a better fit for him because he knows all these guys. I don't think he wants to go someplace and start out all over again.
Yeah, especially when you're in a place where you have the locker room, they really like you, which
Mm-hmm.
is an important thing. That's something he's struggled,
Fans like you.
obviously. Yeah, obviously with the Panthers and the Browns, he struggled with that in the locker room
Mm-hmm.
situation. But yeah, and especially with this with the draft class coming up for
Right.
quarterbacks, I mean, the teams are going to draft a young guy
Mm-hmm.
before they're going to, talk about a big contract with you. So
Mm-hmm.
now that Mike Evans has made the decision, absolutely, I think that's the best move for Baker and the Bucks. Just,
Mm-hmm.
stay in Tampa where you guys did go to the playoffs. It was only your first season, right? Let's see what
Yeah.
you haven't had a lot of consistency throughout your career with
Mm-hmm.
offensive coordinators and stuff like that, and just teammates in general. So let's see
Mm-hmm.
what you can do with a little bit of consistency in the play calling.
Right, and they'll if one of the targets in the draft for them is a running back, and we know running backs you don't have to go first or second round on running backs. You can get to running backs, in that fifth and sixth rounds without any problem whatsoever. You can even get you some running backs in. I mean, there's 5 or 6 out there that are unsigned, so you could perhaps pull somebody from there. But they just need some help on the running side, and they'll get it. They can find it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's great to hear, Jim. It's almost like they've been watching the show because this
Right,
is something we have preached all season, even when the
right.
season was still going. Love Rashad White, but he's more of a third down back. He's not a between the tackles kind of
Yeah,
guy, and
he's a
that is
bouncer.
what exactly that is what the Bucks need. So I'm glad to see that that's a priority on their list. And
Mhm.
obviously, you don't need to draft a running back high because the consensus in the league is they're a dime a dozen when really
Mhm.
they're not. But that's how it's treated, and it's unfortunate. But let's just hope they get their hands on a solid running back who's going to give them a few years of some
Yeah.
good play.
There's not a lot of Christian McCaffreys out there,
Yeah.
or Saquon Barkley's. Okay, but they'll find somebody. There's going to be some guys out there, and fresh legs are important, no question about it. We were talking a little bit about NCAA college basketball. Let's kind of have some fun. We're right now in the final regular season week for most of the college hoops, and the Houston Cougars are on top of the AP Top 20. UConn is right behind them. Now, I don't have any problem with Houston being there, with what they've done, and UConn being at number 2. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about Houston, UConn, Purdue, and perhaps Tennessee being your top 4 seeds in the tournament. So, it doesn't really matter where they are right now because it's the old saying goes, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And right now, Houston would probably be the South or the West. Yeah, probably the South. Um, Number 1 seed. UConn definitely the East. Purdue definitely the Midwest. And either Tennessee or Arizona out west, I would think would be the way that they seed the tournament at this point. Um, I know that we both are UConn fans, and I think that UConn definitely is, going to be a team to beat this time around.
Yeah, I don't know so much just being UConn fans.
Mhm.
It's more
Mhm.
so,
Well,
just
of their work. I'm sorry, I should
yeah,
have
I was
put
just
that.
gonna say it's more so of delivering the
Hmm.
praise that they deserve.
Hmm.
Nobody coming into the season, the defending champions, they were ranked. They were ranked, but they weren't ranked high, and they needed to prove it. And throughout the season, they have proved it. They've climbed the rankings. They were had that number 1 spot for a while. They ended up losing it, but yeah, to me, this is a team that definitely deserves to be where they are. They have shown it. They're the defending champions. They are still the team to beat in the country. I agree, Houston deserves the number one seed right now, but there's no chance in hell there's any other team that deserves number two than UConn.
Okay, so we're now at number 6, and that's Iowa State. And this is something that you're going to like. Iowa State's a really good defensive team. They beat UCF at home at in Orlando, 60-52 on Saturday in their last game. So Iowa State's there. North Carolina remains in the top 10. They are 7th. Then comes Shaka and Marquette. Duke number 9. And in the 10th spot, we keep saying, Creighton's a good basketball team. A lot of people don't necessarily believe us, but there they are at the number 10 spot. Baylor moved up to the 11th spot. Then we've got they jumped 4 spots, by the way. Illinois at the 12th spot. 13 is Auburn. 14 is Kansas. They fell 7 spots, so that was the big fall. Kentucky came up a spot from 16 to 15. Alabama lost 2 spots going backwards at 16. 17 is South Carolina, who came back and beat Florida the other day by a score of 82-76. Washington State, the Huskies, they're the Cougars beat UCLA the other day. It's a sad year for UCLA on football and basketball.
There's no other way to describe it. Like it's
Washington State, the Pac-2 after this. The rushing on to the scene, Gonzaga beat St. Mary's 70-57. That's a beatdown. They moved up 4 points to the 19th spot. BYU stayed where they were last week by beating TCU. Here comes a group of our teams that we have enjoyed this year. San Diego State at 21. They beat San Jose State, as they should. They moved up a spot. Utah State stayed where they were. Utah State beat Air Force 72-60. The St. Mary's, they dropped like a stone 6 spots. They lost to Gonzaga by a score of 70-57. South Florida, who we've spoken about a couple times here, 76-61. Those are your underdogs. Your Charlotte was the favorite in that game. The underdogs being South Florida, and they beat them outright 76-61. And Dayton sneaks into the top 25 this week. The Flyers beat Loyola Chicago 70. They lost to Loyola Chicago 77-72. They dropped 4 spaces in the tournament. In the poll. Also receiving votes: Nebraska, Florida, Boise State, Texas, Texas Tech, Indiana, Appalachian State, New Mexico, FAU, James Madison, Princeton, Michigan State, Villanova, Colorado State, McNeese State, and, of course, Richmond. So those were the folks who got votes but didn't get in. So
you know what I find crazy about that, Jim?
What?
This is what I find crazy. Dayton lost, and they're still ranked 25th, where Richmond leads the conference at 14-2, won again against VCU, who's a top 3 team in the conference, or was going into that game. They have a full 2-game lead over Dayton, which Loyola Chicago is now a 1-game lead over Dayton in the conference, as Loyola Chicago's 13-3, Dayton's 12-4 in the conference. Yet Dayton deserves the ranking out of all the teams in the Atlantic 10 Conference. The 3rd place team is the 25th best team in the conference, And keep in mind, I'm just checking the schedule here because I would like to see some head to heads, but I believe these two play. Richmond has a win over Dayton by 5 points. And they beat Loyola Chicago on the road. Loyola, who just beat Dayton at home.
Right.
So I
Right.
just,
It's crazy.
I struggle to do the mental gymnastics that these
It
lovely
takes to
people
get there.
who are doing the rankings do
We're
to get to
supposed to be.
Dayton is better than Richmond. I love the mental gymnastics it takes to get to that answer.
Andy Katz's Power 36. He put Houston at the number one spot again. Now, look, Calvin Sampson's done a great job at Houston. And, Houston is in pursuit. Looks like they are going to win the Big 12 title in their first year in the conference. UConn, the Huskies, right now got the outright title with a win over Seton Hall. So they are the champions of the Big East. The Boilermakers clinched at least a tie for the top spot in the Big Ten. So they're the number 3. Iowa State, the Cyclones, they're peaking at the right time. And look, this is a team. Iowa State could easily be an Elite 8 or a Final Four team. They are really, they play defense really well, and they don't make mistakes. So Iowa State's there. 10. Go ahead.
One of the 3 teams to beat Houston this year.
Yep, that's right. Tennessee, the Volunteers had a really good week. They swept the state of Alabama. They beat Auburn and Alabama. Arizona, the Wildcats, punched that little reset button after they, after they had a little bump in the road. But I'm still guessing that they're going to be the number 1 seed in the West. Baylor, the Bears got their revenge on Kansas, and they want we'll see how Baylor always does well in the Big 12 tournament, so we'll have to see how they do in that. Number 8 on the Power 36 is, of course, your Kentucky Wildcats. They just keep winning, and they score lots of points in the games that they win. Carolina is number 9. They possibly, I don't think they're going to be a number 1 seed, but I do think they could be a number 2 seed. Duke had a good week. They took out Virginia, and basically they look like the second best team in the ACC.
Yeah, but they beat Virginia at home, and what we know about Virginia this year
Right,
is like
it's a bad team. Yeah.
me, you, and Sean could go beat Virginia at home and then get our doors blown off if we go to their house. You score 12 points in the game, lose by 40 in a 50-20 game, but man, when they go on the road, they suck.
Illinois beat Minnesota by scoring over 100 points in Madison. So they got a road win, an impressive road win. Creighton, the Blue Jays, they reached the Big East title game. That's their goal, and I think they've got enough offense to get them there. Marquette, the Golden Eagles, lost to Creighton, but they had Marquette has had 4 of their they've got a rotation of 8 or 9 guys. They had 4 of them were sick with flu, and so that when they lost to Creighton, I'm not so sure that look, I'm not don't want to take anything away from Creighton. They win, but Marquette wasn't in a good situation, and this week they have a showdown with UConn, so they a lot of chicken soup being eaten out in Milwaukee for that Marquette team. Alabama is number 14 on the list, tied. Hung with the Vols for a while, but they couldn't quite finish it, and so Tennessee won that game. South Carolina, the Gamecocks, have a good chance to be seeded number 2 in the Southeastern Conference tournament. That would have stunned most people at the beginning of the season. When I say most people, certainly me was one of those most people. 16th, University of South Florida, they were 17th, climbing again. They clinched the outright American Athletic Conference Championship. They will get the number 1 seed in the tournament. So they got 2 games left to play. One tomorrow night against Tulane, which is senior night. So they only have 3 seniors, so that shouldn't take long for the festivities there. And then they try to keep their 14-game winning streak, trying to move it to a 15-game winning streak, which is what St. Mary's had before they lost to Gonzaga, who happens to be right behind South Florida. Gonzaga, the Zags won at St. Mary's, and as much as, I mean, they're 16th in the AP poll, so they're a lock for the NCAA tournament. So we'll just get that out there.
It's all
ahead of
mental
St. Mary's, by the way.
gymnastics for me. Yeah, this is my point, right? Oh, they blew them out. They blew them out on the road. They're the better team. It's not like St. Mary's has the better conference record or anything. Gonzaga lost to Santa Clara earlier this season in the conference, so they don't have the number 1 seed. Not to mention St. Mary's beat Gonzaga on the road, but we don't want to talk about that game because, it was much earlier in the season. Yet a 14-game win streak and winning 20 of your last 21 games in the AAC is not good enough to secure your spot in the conference tournament. So I'm just, or in that conference tournament, the NCAA tournament. So I'm just, I'm struggling to do the mental gymnastics here in my head. I'm just I find it very interesting, and that's all I'm going to say on that.
Well, here's one that will really test your mental gymnastics. Washington State, this past weekend, this past week, I should say, swept the LA schools, right? So they beat UCLA and USC. They're tied with Arizona on atop the top 12, Pac-12, I'm sorry. Arizona's ranked, Arizona's ranked number 6, and Washington State's ranked number 18. Nobody's talking about Washington State getting a 1 seed. Everybody's talking about Arizona getting a 1 seed. So, there you go, boys and girls. I can't help you with that. Number 19, the aforementioned Gales from St. Mary's. Now, that game that they lost to Gonzaga, right? That was the first time they've lost in the entire season in the WCC, and they have already won the league outright. So go ahead, figure it out, because Gonzaga's at 17, St. Mary's is at 19, and they're not even close in the top 25. There's like 5 spaces between, Gonzaga being ahead of St. Mary's. So
yeah, and
again, you do the math.
When I criticize it, I'm not necessarily agreeing with the fact. Like, sure, I could agree with the fact that, or sorry, I'm not disagreeing with the fact. I could agree with the fact that Gonzaga's the better team right now. They've shown that they're a little bit hotter. Have they been the better team all season? No, but fine. Okay, you want to rank them higher than St. Mary's because Gonzaga's the better team right now. That's fine. But what I'm criticizing is the hypocrisy, how we can do that and then turn around and say, oh, but South Florida hasn't done enough to even be considered as a tournament team. It's just, at some point we have to draw the line. You can't just apply it to one team and then reverse it for another team. Oh, well, we got to make an exception for Memphis and FAU, so we'll do some mental gymnastics here. But Gonzaga, we all thought they were going to be the best team. They proved us wrong. They weren't the best team in the conference. But since they're hotter right now, we'll make them the better team. So that's okay.
Well, we've said this a number of times. It seems like why play the conference schedule if it's not going to help you? Yeah, I mean, if it's not going to help you, if it's a foregone conclusion that they've already printed the invitations and Gonzaga's on the invitation list, and St. Mary's, maybe we'll give the Gales a shot and get them in. Justifying it, you can do whatever you say to justify it, but you can't sweep away the fact that the Gales have won the WCC and they've only lost a single game in the conference. And South Florida, in their situation, they've only lost a game in the conference, and they haven't lost a game. They've lost one game since December.
Yeah.
So, figure that one out.
That's exactly what
BYU,
I'm talking about.
yeah, BYU has won 2 in a row, including a game at Kansas. So they're one of the top 4 teams in the Big 12, and I'm sure not many people thought that BYU is going to be, that good in, what arguably is the best basketball conference in the country. So good on BYU. It doesn't get them up higher than some of the teams that are in the Big 12, but not for nothing. Utah State, we've talked about the Aggies all season long. They got a 3-game winning streak and a chance to win this week the Mountain West Conference outright. That would be a good get for Utah State. Florida has been inconsistent, and they got whacked by South Carolina this week. They have a monster showdown coming this week against Alabama, and that could actually be the difference in whether or not the Florida deserves a tournament bid or not. Because the Gators have been inconsistent, and yeah, it's okay to be inconsistent in the Southeastern Conference, but inconsistent is inconsistent, and they're not even in the top 25 this year, this week, and we'll have to see. San Diego State, the Aztecs have gotten hot, and they had road wins against UNLV, a home win against Boise State, and they still have a chance. It's outside, but they still have a chance of getting to the Utah State and maybe sharing. They can't win it, but they can share a piece of that Mountain West title if all things fall their way. So there's that.
Yeah,
Kansas.
that's the team.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say with San Diego State, that's a team where I'm sure they'd love to win the Mountain West Conference,
right.
But they're definitely more concerned with just getting into the tournament because that's the kind of team they are. They have that, obviously, that good defense under Dutcher, and they have the experience of making the Final Four from last season. Obviously, not everybody from that team is there, but there are some guys, and that's where I think you're going to see San Diego State really step up when they get to the tournament. They're going to be that kind of team that answers the call.
Yep. Kansas, the Jayhawks are hanging on by a thread in the top 25 with losses to BYU and Baylor. Kevin McCullers Jr. is just not playing well, and he had a bad game against BYU. He is a difference maker, and he's got to show up for that game against Baylor. They can't afford. They got a Baylor game this. He returned for the game against Baylor, which didn't help him. So he's got to step it up if Kansas is going to go anywhere. Nebraska. Now the Huskers have finished. Are suddenly hot Ohio State. Suddenly hot. I say that because they've won 2 games in a row, beating Nebraska and Rutgers. I'm not exactly sure that counts as being an amazing situation.
Might as well just put them in the tournament now, right?
Well, they're going in.
Big Ten team. It's a big school. Just might as well let's get them in the NCAA tournament.
Nebraska's going to sneak in somewhere somehow. Richmond, who wasn't rated last week, the Spiders are alone in first place in the A-10 after they beat VCU. And the A-10 is a good conference, and Richmond, we've said, keep an eye on the Spiders. They're pretty good. Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean. The Ramblers beat Dayton at home after losing to St. Bonaventure. They are a game back of Richmond with 2 games to play. And so we'll see how things,
The Ramblers are back, Jim. I don't know what else to say. They got the spirit of Sister Jean in them, and they're ready to make a return to the NCAA tournament. So
sounds that way.
Yeah, hopefully they're number 2 right now, ahead of Dayton, the one ranked team in the conference.
Right?
Richmond and Loyola are ahead with conference record than the one ranked team. So those are some teams that deserve to be in the tournament. as far as I know.
Okay, the Boise boys are back. That's right, Boise State at 29 on the 36. The Broncos have won 5 in a row after knocking off New Mexico. Iowa, who wasn't ranked, Hawkeyes are making a push for the NCAA tournament with with a road win at Northwestern. They have a big game this week, and that is against Illinois. So keep an eye out for that one. Indiana State, who hasn't been, the Sycamores haven't been there since Larry Bird played, won the Missouri Valley Conference outright. So good on them. They get the #1 seed in the tournament, in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. And those teams in the Missouri Valley Conference have always been, drive you crazy type teams. Big Ten's Northwestern Wildcats are the walking wounded. They've found out a way to beat Maryland without Brian Langenhorn. They couldn't beat Iowa, and they're hoping that he can get back soon. They also played without Matt Nicholson. They're two of their top scorers. So the MASH unit, which is known as Northwestern, hopes to get through the season here and maybe make a run in the tournament. Nevada, the Wolfpack, have won 5 in a row and are a game out of first place in what could end up being a 3-way tie for the Mountain West crown. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but it's possible. All right. Villanova, the Wildcats, are starting to play, that kind of basketball again. That gets them in tournaments. They have a road win at Providence, so that
No,
counts
too
something.
little, too late, Jim. Too little, too late for Villanova.
For me,
this is not a tournament team. They don't deserve to be
there. No. Jay Wright is not coaching this team. Okay. Syracuse, the Orange have won 4 in a row. That could help their tournament chances. They have a big road game at Clemson. I'm sorry, they had a big road win at Clemson, which hasn't been that good either. Syracuse, again, if they get in, it's purely because of their, of the Boeheim factor, and Jim isn't coaching anymore.
If Syracuse gets in, it's a massive injustice to a team like Loyola or Richmond or someone like that is going to get
South
left.
Florida.
Or exactly right. To me, they're already locked in the tournament, so I don't even count them in that situation. But yeah, exactly, it's a massive injustice to a team like that deserves to be in the tournament.
Okay, so we round out the 36 with Princeton. Now, Princeton are on top of the Ivy League with Yale, and they're riding an 8-game win streak. So Princeton, who seemingly always comes through toward the end of the season, I think there's a very good chance that they make the tournament and they get the Ivy title. Here's the games to watch this week. North Carolina at Duke. That's Saturday. That's possibly the greatest rivalry in men's college basketball over the years. Little less so without the, we had Dean Smith there for so many years against Krzyzewski, then Krzyzewski against Roy Williams, and now it's two good teams, but not, the names are there, but they're not the dominant teams they were once in a while. Purdue at Illinois, that's a Tuesday this coming week. If Illinois takes down Purdue, that means Illini could get a piece of the Big Ten title with a win over Iowa and a Purdue loss to Wisconsin. It's a reach, but it could happen. All right, Kentucky taking on Tennessee. That's a Saturday game. It's the SEC title could be decided in this game, but it doesn't matter because both teams should easily cruise into the SEC tournament and may very well be facing each other again in the SEC title game. I was
going to say, Jim, it doesn't matter because Tennessee's going to blow the doors off Kentucky. They are such an inconsistent team, and they may be playing well lately, but this is the perfect spot for you to watch them fold up like a cheap tent that they are.
There you go. Tennessee has a second tough game this week. It's on Wednesday. The Gamecocks have to face South Carolina, and Lamont Paris is coaching the Vols and doing a good job. They're tied with Alabama in the second spot in the Southeastern Conference. The game between Illinois and Iowa, we said before, that was going to be a tough game for both teams. And the Illini is playing for. The Illini has a chance, a very good chance, of winning the regular season title. Iowa, hopes to bump themselves up in the rankings so that they can. And when I say the rankings, I'm talking about the rankings for the Big Ten tournament, so they don't have to face a tough team right off the get go. Big game for the UConn Huskies. UConn travels to Milwaukee for a Wednesday showdown with Marquette. Should be a good game. The Huskies have already won the Big East. Okay, so we know that. The Golden Eagles need to get healthy for the Big East, and then obviously the NCAA tournament. So a win over the Huskies would do wonders for Marquette's momentum. I don't know that's going to happen, but it would be. It's two good basketball teams, and if you're not doing anything on Wednesday evening, it definitely is worthy of watching. Here's a game I'm not going to watch. Alabama at Florida Tuesday night. The Gators could use a home win. Really? Let's talk about the obvious here. Yes, they could use a home win to lock a bid in the tournament. Right now it looks like they're going to be sweating it out on Selection Sunday. They should be sweating it out on Selection Sunday. They have not played good basketball all year long. So, sorry, Gators. UConn at Providence on Saturday. That's Providence is a sneaky little team. I don't think that they're going to beat UConn, but if Providence can pull off the upset, they might be playing for a bid themselves. So we'll see.
Well, they'll be getting UConn in a good spot because let's say UConn wins that game just because it's a bit of a banged up Marquette team. Obviously, they're missing Tyler Kolek to injury as well, not just the illnesses going on. So let's say UConn wins that game on the road. It's going to be a big deal for them because after they lost to Creighton, there's a stat floating around that Dan Hurley's 0-21 on the road against ranked opponents. So this is going to be a point of emphasis for them, especially when they blew out Marquette by 30 at home. Just like a week or two ago. So, if UConn wins this game, probably going to be a big spread on the weekend. Providence could definitely cover. I don't know if they pull off the upset win, but I think they would be getting UConn in a nice letdown spot. I know I do talk about good teams don't have letdowns, but that would be a monumental win for them. They haven't beaten a ranked team on the road in 21 straight games.
Well, there's your number. The thing is, going back to the old Big East days, way back to where Rick Pitino was coaching at Providence. When Providence and UConn play, it's like the entire state of Connecticut and Rhode Island, which together isn't a really big number, but it's big enough to fill a gym. They pack the place. I mean, if Providence going to UConn, whether it's them going to Stores or UConn coming to Providence, that place is jam-packed, and it is, crazy. It doesn't matter whether the two teams are good, bad, or indifferent. But when UConn comes to town and they're, a number 2 team in the country and a number 1 seed, I guarantee you Providence and their fans are going to be up for it. Does that mean they'll beat UConn? No. But as you said, that number could be large, and I don't think that they'll have any trouble keeping the game closer than UConn would probably want them to.
Yeah, and remember, that's if UConn beats Marquette. If UConn loses to banged up Marquette on the road, whew, good night, Providence.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Getting destroyed in that one.
The whipping boy. They're going to take you down. Clemson at Wake on Saturday. The Demon Deacons needed a win over Clemson to get back on the right side of the bubble because they're one of the bubble teams. The Tigers need another win to improve its seeding in the ACC tournament, as well as they've already got them in the NCAA tournament. So it could be that. All right. And then we round it out with New Mexico at Utah State. That's a Saturday game. The Lobos need to make up a loss, which they had at Air Force. They need a road win bad, and they go to Logan, Utah to get it. We'll see. A win for New Mexico would do wonders for the Lobos' opportunity to get into the NCAA. So that's your games to circle for this week. The March Madness team of the week has been, they give it to Tennessee. The Vols are now the top team in the Southeastern Conference after getting through the state of Alabama, as I said before a little earlier. And so they're going to be a team that people are going to watch in the SEC tournament. Don't expect them to win it, but I mean they can. But the SEC tournament this year, there's a lot of schizophrenic teams in that league. So Lord knows how it's going to show up.
Yeah, it's very top heavy too. Like obviously
Yeah.
You got your Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina out of nowhere. You call Kentucky, obviously. Maybe you could throw Florida in that, but then after Florida, right? Florida's the fringe team. After that, it's a bad conference. That bottom half.
It gets ugly. It gets very, very ugly. All right, ladies and gentlemen. But before we wrap things up here, I do want to say that someone who is a wonderful person, a tremendous reporter, a tremendous insider, and that Chris Mortensen passed away yesterday, and he'd been battling cancer for a number of years. And Chris, good guy, someone who was as nice a guy off of the air as he was on the air. Worked hard. He was in a hospital bed a few years ago when he was taking treatments and broke the Peyton Manning retirement story from a hospital bed, which just goes to prove how diligent he was at what he did. He will be missed. He was certainly someone who everybody watched on ESPN, and he had a long career prior to getting to ESPN. So rest in peace, my friend Chris Mortensen, passing away, and he will be missed. So that's a bit of sad news, but we have some good news. Life goes on, and you've got some things to pay attention to tonight in the show box below.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. Tonight, I just have a few soccer plays up, one in Argentina and another one in the Premier League that's going to start very soon, as well as my NBA non-conference game of the month. You can get, I'm on a 4-1 NBA run right now, so make sure you check that out.
All right. Until tomorrow, everybody, have a lovely Monday, and we will see you tomorrow. And Amedeus will tell us how much of a dog that USF will be to Tulane because they play Senior Day tomorrow, and so they'll probably be a 10-point underdog at the Yuengling Center. So we'll see. But until that time, take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow around 2:00 for Amedeus. I'm Jim. Have a good day.